DeRozan answered the bell on the road. And now, if Middleton is out, like, do you think these guys have a chance to win this thing right now?
I mean, it's hard to tell because Milwaukee still has the best player on the floor. They're going to have the best player on the floor more often than not. And in a series like this, when you are a prohibitive favorite, you can still win a series with a superstar of that caliber. I think what DeRozan proved is that, and I think what the Bulls have proved, I think, in the first two games, is that if you defend at a high enough level, you are going to be competitive for the rest of this series. And when you're competitive in an NBA game, you have a shot to win those games. I think game one was a good lesson for a team that in general hadn't really been at this level yet. I think the Bulls had 3 players that have had 25 or more playoff games in their careers, and the Bucks have 7 of those players. So experience-wise, the decisive advantage belongs to the defending champs. But I think it was a good lesson after game one, and it was a good blueprint in game two for that team, that they can stay in games if they continue to defend at a high level. And you mentioned Lonzo. Defending at a high level is not something that the Bulls have done consistently since Lonzo got hurt in mid-January. And for the most part, that's something they haven't done consistently since Christmas time, when Alex Caruso first exited the lineup, when he was dealing with COVID, when he was dealing with a hamstring issue. All of that stuff started right around Christmas time. So if they defend at a high level now, you don't have to. You lost an all-star if you're Milwaukee. That is a huge loss if Middleton is out for a significant portion of time. The same way we're talking about Devin Booker in Phoenix. That's an all-star caliber player that you're missing, and a veteran player who's been through those wars and understands what it's like in a playoff game. So they're in it now. They're in a series. This is a real series now.
I am shocked I don't hear more optimism in your voice. I mean, they lost a guy who's scoring 20 points a game. I mean, he was critical last year to them winning a world championship. And then Bobby Portis with this eye issue. I mean, yes, I get that Giannis is the most dominant player in the world, in the conversation for best player in the world. But, I mean, if you're the Chicago Bulls, you're looking at this saying, we have a legit shot to win this series. I mean, do you not feel that way?
I think they need to feel that way. I think the Bulls should feel that way. And that's the thing, that's the mentality that's going to keep them in this series. Because I really feel like that first game of playoff experience for a player like Zach LaVine, for a player like Patrick Williams, for a player like Kobe White, who's had stretches of major importance in the first 2 games of this series. I think that first game really was like kind of a wake-up call. I think you need to go through a game like that and see what it takes to be disappointed that you could have taken game one. This could be a 2-0 series. The Bulls played well enough in game one to win that game. And what we saw last night, clearly they're good enough to be in this series and be on the floor with this team, with these champs. So, yeah, should there be optimism now? Absolutely. There absolutely should be optimism if you're the Bulls. But you also understand what it takes, because the Bucks have been through that. They understood what it took last year to win games, to come back from down in a series, to play for 48 minutes and stay close when you're playing a team that might have a couple of advantages against you. I think they needed that, and that's it. That was an important learning experience. I really believe that. I think it's hard to – I don't think it can be overstated how much of an important experience that first game, the disappointment of it, to get a sense for what it takes at this level to win 4 out of 7 against teams that are playing their best basketball in the season. I think that was a really important lesson. So now there should be optimism. You should be a shark. You should smell blood in the water and understand, okay, they're bleeding now. How do we take advantage of that? How do we try to advance that narrative? How do we try to advance the things that we did well in the first 2 games and carry that over into Chicago and now make this a 3 out of 5 when you've already stolen home court advantage?
Adam Amin, Chicago Bulls TV announcer, joining us this morning on Keyshawn, JWill, and Max. Adam, how important, not just last night, but how important has DeMar DeRozan been to the Chicago Bulls since coming over in free agency?
I think the last 2 years in general has put a more professional feel to the organization, and that goes from top down, from the front office to the coaching staff to the roster that's on the floor night in and night out. It feels like a more professional, polished structure. And I think DeRozan's probably the epitome of that. He's probably at the heart and at the core of that, because you guys understand what it's like when the I don't want to call him the alpha in the sense that like he's the most dominant force of personality that you see, but DeRozan has this aura about him. I think that this professional polish about him. He knows what it takes at this level. He's been around for a long time. Other than winning a title, he's seen just about everything in his NBA career. He has seen every scenario that pops up in a basketball game, in a playoff game, in his NBA career. So he just has this wealth of experience and knowledge. And with that has come a certain level of mastery of the craft. And with that has come a certain feel and a certain aura and a certain professionalism that I think a lot of these young guys needed to see. I think Zach LaVine, who's got all the talent in the world, needed to see, oh, this is how a professional really does it at this level. A guy who's been to the playoffs, a guy who's been in a conference final series, a guy who's played up against the best in the world, some of the best in this game. They needed to see what that takes night in and night out, day in and day out, what the nuances of being a professional is. And I think he's epitomized that, not only with how well he's played, but with how he carries himself. There's an aura about him. There's a quiet confidence about him, and there's a leadership that comes with that. There's a credibility that comes with that. And I think a lot of these guys needed to see what that's like. What does that look like in human form in front of you that you can witness for 6 to 8 months as a basketball team and go, all right, that's what it takes.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN Plus.